One thing that we have asked the judge to do is to limit the so-called abuse excuse, to limit evidence that has nothing to do with this case, limit evidence going back years and years, because the defendants themselves say that they did not kill their parents because they were abused. What they said was that they killed their parents because they were in fear of their parents.
The judge knows by the second trial what the defense is going to do. And the judge was not sympathetic, and he excluded the details of the abuse that had been in the first trial.
One thing, the judge is already making indications he's going to severely limit the defense. He's going to limit our right to put on the facts, which is quite extraordinary. And we think we have a real problem with getting a fair and unbiased jury. So, you know, it doesn't take a whole lot more than that to make you think you have serious problems in the Justice Department.
His goal in that trial was to get a conviction. There is no doubt about it. It was really painful to watch, but there was nothing that I could do. There was a sense that there was something going on behind the scenes that we were not privy to. And I don't know what it was, but what I do know is that before the second trial started, Judge Weisberg said that he had reconsidered the significant rulings in the first trial. And he then proceeded to officially and systematically reverse all of his important decisions. And essentially, right in front of us, he took away my entire defense. We were not allowed to talk about any psychological trauma we went through, and any terrorizing or intimidation or fear that occurred in the house. It was excluded from the trial. And he went through each witness and said they can't testify to that. They're not allowed to testify to that. And having been the judge in the first trial, he knew exactly what the most important aspects of our case was. Our case was based on just a history of fear that I had of my mom and my dad.
How do you not let a jury hear something that profoundly affected these kids from virtually from the time they were born? It's horrible. The rulings he made certainly lend credence to Abramson's claim that he wants to see them convicted, and I believe he did.
It wasn't even a feeling. It was clear. The mood in the courtroom was focused on conviction for first-degree murder.
David Kahn's conduct, I thought, was shameful. I really do. He came in like a hitman. What right did he have to look inside those kids' minds if these kids were the love slaves of their father? We can't comprehend that. It shows a callousness that doesn't serve him very well.
Once again, they intend to talk a lot about abuse, and the jury is going to have to decide what did the abuse have to do with the events of that particular day.
In the first trial, he allowed us to present testimony of those relatives, friends, teachers, and others who helped us create a mosaic of the warped family life that the brothers themselves would then testify about. In the second trial, he eliminated most of those witnesses during the guilt phase and left Erik to tell the horror tale himself.
I wasn't allowed to talk about Lyle telling me that he was being touched by his dad. Wasn't allowed to talk about that.
Jill wanted me desperately to talk about intergenerational abuse because it was. Judge Weisberg said it wasn't relevant.
The judge made a very specific ruling. He said, I have to testify first before any other defense witnesses can testify. And so the jury was looking at me very skeptically.
Erik had to carry the whole second trial. It was an impossible feat.
Without all of the years of trauma that my relatives have seen us go through as children, without that testimony, it's very difficult to convey the trauma, the terror, and all of the bad things that happened in my house. It's almost impossible for me to do it by myself because I can say it, but it's just me saying it.
What was so unfair about that was you have a hung jury. You presented your defense. There's going to be another trial. So they have their next case, and then the judge completely guts their entire defense. They have no defense.
I found it troubling that there were very different rulings in the second trial than the first one. There were so many changes, and so many of them went to the heart of what was successful in the first case that I thought it was troubling.